So this is part 2 on tritones. Hopefully you've seen part 1. If not, then have a quick look at that as we're progressing from there. So this was where we left off in part 1. And I'm using an EP for this sound. So yeah, we have the tritone of a third and dominant 7, and they're coming down chromatically as opposed to me just playing the plain chords. The left hand takes a shell voicing, and then the right hand is playing a triad on the top. Now looking at it in more detail, the right hand is actually playing what's known as a first degree chord, because it starts on the first note of the scale, and then a second degree chord built on the second note of the scale. They're both triads, so they're separated by, your thirds, and it's just moving along as I progress down with the left hand. But what this actually creates is what's known as a chord extension, which is basically when you put your extra notes on your triad chords. So your 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, the sort of chords that give it spice and adds a bit more colour to your chords than just being a plain major sound. So you end up with that. Again, it's a rootless voicing, so the bass isn't being played. But let's look at this now in the key of G, I think. Because descending the tritones down like that doesn't just mean that the bass has to come down in semitones. It can actually move in what's known as fourths. I've done something else on fourths to describe what that means when you move in fourths. But let's look in G at a simple progression known as a 7-3-6 progression. So it's 7, 3, and 6. So in the key of G, let's say I want to add these tritones in. I'm going to start with the 7th chord, which is F sharp. So I'm going to straight away look for the dominant 7 and the third of F sharp. There's a dominant 7, there's a third. So there's my tritone. Using the same principle as before, I'm going to look for either the first degree chord or the second one. So I'm going to use the second degree chord here. And then go back to the first degree chord, G, B, D. But then notice I've moved down a semitone here. And this is actually the third and the 7th of B, which is actually the third degree in the key of G. So I've gone 7, 3, and so even though I'm descending down in semitones, it's actually moving in fourths, and that just allows my right hand to play second degree chord first of all, yeah, second degree chord, then move back to a first degree chord. So I have that sound now, which is a lot more jazzy R&B feel to it than just playing the standard way. So there's two key things with playing tritones that you need to know. First of all, if you're playing a song and you want to use the functional chords, this is basically the main chords that the song's built on, so they are needed in the song, then I would suggest when you come to the third degree of that song in terms of the chord, you should look at perhaps changing and making it a tritone with the left hand instead. So if I'm in G and I'm playing a 1 to a 3 and then a 6. So straight away I'm thinking number 3, I can play a tritone there instead. So there's 1, and for the 3, I've now added a tritone. There's my dominant 7, there's my third. And then here, I'm using a first degree chord, but swapping it to that. Okay, so if you want to do something else and use it as a non-functional chord, Non-functional meaning that these chords aren't essential, they're like passing chords and filling the gap. So you could call it gap fillers, I guess. So as a non-functional chord now, you can do a variety of things to the tritone. You can do something which is known as a linear chord progression. So let me show you that under 3 actually. Same example. Now here's my first degree chord, D, G and B. But a linear progression basically means that each note or harmony can move in different directions, but you keep the distance between those voices the same. So there's a 4th difference here and a 3rd here. So I can go up and down, and that's a linear progression. So let's try that. And so you begin to create more pattern tones, and you can be as creative as you like with the linear progression. Let's try moving the right and left hand in this case. So both hands move there, something else. Keep the right hand moving. And so that enables you to do some non-functional linear progressions or chord progressions, passing tones, all achieved through tritones. Another important thing to note about tritones is how you basically voice those chords, and focusing on the leading voice, which is the highest note of your chord. I think it's really important that you play them in a way that the notes move smoothly from one to the next. So for example, it's not jumping from G, D and then E. So a nice smooth movement where they're only moving a distance of a tone from each other or semitone goes a lot smoother, and it's more pleasing to the ear than say a jump of a 4th or a 5th. So just to demonstrate that, I will play some, well, a succession of tritones which are quite extreme, but hopefully because the lead voice that you hear will be moving in tones and semitones, it will be still acceptable for the ears. I think I'll pick G major actually as a good example. So my lead voice will follow G major like that. Okay, here we go. So hopefully from that you can see my highest notes were only going up the G major scale. Just explain what all those notes were. First degree chord, and I've got F and B. So I've got D and G sharp. This is actually an A chord, C sharp in A. C sharp and G, and this is a B major chord. E flat and A, F major, D, G sharp, and I've got F, B flat and D, C sharp and G, here, there's a tritone, E major chord, C and F sharp here, F sharp major, B flat, C sharp, F sharp. And then to finish, B and F. And I've got here B flat, E flat, and G. But I've just doubled the G here, made it an octave. Because I've done tritones here with the left hand, each of these notes here should have a bass attached to it, which you can add. So I suppose I won't go through them all now, but it could be, I guess you could consider it homework. For my first one, the tritones there, that is the 7th and 3rd of G. So I could have that as a bass note. Let's try another one. Here I've got D and G sharp, 7th and 3rd of E. So I could have that. But what's worth noting, this is also the 3rd and 7th of B flat. So I could have B flat as well as a bass. So it's something you can play around with if you want to put some passing tones in as an arrangement for a particular song or whatever you had in mind. I'll just put something together now. I like E for that, so I'll put that in for that one. Yeah. But as mentioned before, that could be a B flat, so you know what, I'll alternate the two. Yeah. So that's basically covered the use of tritones. Thank you for watching. I will do some more techniques in the next video. But feel free to leave comments for me on the usual social media sites.